everyone, time for another video. Today we're going to be talking about expensive gear. Does it make you a better fisherman? Probably one of the more touchy-feely subjects out there because it's something that a lot of people aspire for. Better gear. Well, top-end gear. But does it actually make you a better fisherman? Now, I'm gonna ask this question with the risk of offending a lot of people. Okay? If you're able to buy, say, a Ferrari, does it actually make you a better driver? Probably the answer is yes, probably no. It depends on which side of the fence you're sitting at, okay? But for me, buying expensive gear that's not appropriate for the type of fishing that you do might work against you, okay? So, take for example, you are fishing from shore and you are mostly, let's say, casting lures. And when you're casting lures, did you guys hear that? The scratching? That's my dog. Great timing. Okay, so when you're casting lures and you have, say, let's say a Stella. Okay, a Stella 3000. You're casting light lures and, you know, catching nice fish or whatnot. Is it really the best reel that you could get for the money? A lot of people would say like, hey, you know, the Stella's the best and all this and that. Okay, I would disagree. This is a Vanquish. It's not a cheap reel. It really isn't. It's probably a few notches below the cost scale compared with the Stella. The thing with this reel is that it is lighter, way lighter than the Stella. So I would say even if you had the Stella, this would be a better choice if you're casting small light lures off the rocks on the beach or whatnot, because it's lighter. Now, a light reel, even something as small as this, would give you less fatigue and you'll end up casting more and it will make your fishing a bit more enjoyable. Now, this is small stuff. Imagine if it is bigger stuff. Something like this. This is a 6,000 size reel. And I usually use this. Well, this is my jigging reel. It's a power gear, so it's slower in the ratio. A Stella would probably be lighter, but quite honestly, I kind of not have the money to buy. Especially for this size, because it kind of doesn't really make much of a difference for me if it's a bit heavier, because I don't fast jig much, but it's always nice to have one when you need it. So when I go, I rig this up. It has a jig ready and it's ready to drop. What I use this for is when I'm slow jigging, okay, I'm able to get a strike and then my line breaks. Let's say it's something with teeth or whatnot, I got rubbed off, or for some reason or another, the line breaks. Could be a really bad knot. It happens. Bang! Now, I take the combo, drop it down with a heavy, fast jig, probably a sliding jig. What happens there is that since it's a fast jig, when I open and drop it, there's there's no drag on the line, and it just drops straight down. It goes down faster. It goes down really fast. So instead of actually having to reel in, you know, retie, drop down, I save a lot of time by just taking the rod, dropping it down, putting it in a rod holder, reel my slow jig in while this thing is dropping, and then jig. Okay, put the other combo in a holder and then start jigging. So I don't kind of lose time, and it's very good for, let's say, second chance hits. Now, the funny thing here is that the Stella would probably be able to do the kind of job that this one does, but for me, it's kind of like a second chance setup. So it's not really something that I jig with the whole time. If you do this as your primary, if this is your primary setup, get a Stella, you know. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is that more expensive gear doesn't make you a better fisherman, but it makes the gear exponentially more reliable. So that's one less thing you have to worry about. The main difference between, for me, the biggest thing, there's quite a few differences, but for me the biggest difference between a twin power and the Stella would be the weight. The Stella is a bit lighter, not by a huge margin, but if you're jigging the whole day and you need, or casting even for that matter, if it's your primary setup, go ahead, invest as much as you want on gear that you believe would be able to help you, or one thing that you need to worry about less. But it doesn't mean that expensive gear would make you a better fisherman. It really doesn't. There's just a few things as far as performance is concerned that would make them better. Now, mid-range or top mid-range gear is pretty much everything that you'll ever need. If you are one of those guys that just fish the weekend, or someone that fishes a lot, even mid-range to top mid-end, these rods and reels are actually more machine than any fish could handle. If you're fishing for bigger fish like big tuna, big GT, marlin or whatnot, fish that pull hard, make really long runs and all that, you need reliable gear, and this is where the top end kind of kicks in. I have a lot of rods and reels. I'll be honest. I have a lot. Okay. Most of those are either top mid-range or mid-range. I only have a handful of really top end rods and reels, and they're mostly reserved for very specific fishing types that, again, I need reliability on. Okay, I don't want to be attached to a 50 kilo tuna and find myself in a very precarious position because my reel spool is overheating, or a less reliable rod for that matter, something that won't, a rod that I wouldn't be able to load effectively for my size. So I'd rather stick in gear that I know I would be able to squeeze a lot of performance from. Now, weight matters a lot when you're casting really long distances and you're casting full power the whole day. This is where the Stella earns its keep. Okay, now take for example, for me, I'm a small guy, and I'm not too strong. So I would keep myself in a range as my maximum. So if other guys are throwing, say, 18, 20,000 size reels, I would be most likely throwing stuff on 14,000, or I'd buy I have extra spools from Studio Ocean Mark that increase the size of my 14,000 to 16, and that's my absolute maximum. Because any more than that, and then my body wouldn't be able to support the drag, and that's very important, because this is what tires you out when you're hooked onto a fish. The main thing that makes you a better angler is just one thing, really: asking the question why and finding the best possible answer. Why do you need to learn about drags, how to set them, why the rod breaks, and how you should handle rods when fighting fish? Why do you need to learn how to load the rod properly when you're making a cast? Questions. Ask those questions. Look for the answers. This is the age of the internet. The answer is out there. All you have to do is just type your question and find. Studying fishing is like any other sport. You have to learn what you can, as much as you can, and apply them when you're doing it, and that's what makes you a better fisherman. Now, all the fishing skill in general is comprised of smaller departmentalized skills that make up a whole. Like, take for example the skill for casting. The skill for casting is also divided into several skills. Spinning, very easy. Fly fishing, not so easy. Overheads, not so easy. So if you want to stick with just spinning reels and rods, believe it or not, there are casts out there that you would be able to learn to get more distance from the rod that you already have. There's different casting styles that might be a bit more efficient for you and your size. Okay, I'm a small guy. Okay, so I have to be able to load the rod as effectively as I could. But I know that a taller, bigger guy would be able to load the rod more effectively than I could with a certain cast. So all these things you have to look for, because fishing is highly an individual sport, and what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everyone else. And we all know that we all have our fishing styles, and this is very influenced by a lot of things, but the biggest influence would always be your ego, so it's kind of weird, but ego has a lot to do with fishing, because personal preference is in play. So it could be that one guy likes this rod and he's very highly opinionated about this rod because it's the only rod that he used. Someone like me have used a lot of rods from a lot of brands, so I have my own opinions, and there's always going to be a difference in opinion. So as far as learning all these skills are concerned, you'd be able to actually do your research on one particular thing, develop your own particular style, and improve it. Even when you think that you know, there's still a lot to learn. And this single thing makes you a better fisherman. If you're a guy that's able to afford the best of the best, great. Learning what these things can do, and to be able to max the utilization of all these features would make you a better fisherman, but not the reels and rods themselves. Okay, so at least that's in my opinion. And what about you? comments, please. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. That's it for now. Thanks for the chat. Hope you learned something, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on the notification bell so that each time I upload a video you'll get notified. Remember, keep on learning and have fun out there.